And we're live. All right. The man, the myth, the legend. What's going on, dude?
Not much. Just got done crushing some old people at pickleball and
Yeah, boy.
excited to be on the podcast.
Yeah. That's why we do it. That's why we train. Just to get rolling, you're going to be my first guest on here. And, why I picked the name Pain to Power is it's very, fitting for my life, my journey. But I kind of want you to tie that into, you know, your original pain points. How did you turn that into your power? Kind of like your intro, your hero's journey, so we can kind of fill the audience in.
Yeah. My story, like a lot of, was a pain to power. It was the wounded healer archetype. Some people, become a victim and then they become the victor. They go through pain and they get to power. I kind of went the wounded healer route, where I was in fourth grade. I was in gymnastics, and between classes in school, me and my friends were doing front flips and back flips off the desks. Did a flip, slipped, and hit the corner of my head in the corner of a really sharp desk, and blacked out. Ended up in the nurses and then in the hospital. I don't remember much of that day, but I went from a grade ahead to a grade behind in school. I lost my personality, my affect. I was like Dory from Finding Nemo. I would walk upstairs, not know why I went there, but I lost half of my IQ, and I was just made bullied in school for being stupid. Like, it was a rough 9 months where I went to 20 to 30 different doctors and specialists, and they were like, "Your kid's just messed up now. Like, we don't know what to do." They did CAT scans and MRIs and EEGs and sleep studies and blood tests and multiple psych evaluations and IQ tests and all this other stuff. And they're like, "Yeah, he's clearly messed up, but we don't know why, or maybe he'll get better over time. Maybe he won't. This just kind of happens." And this was in the 90s. And I still have the CT scan back from then and all the old medical records, because I just find it fascinating. Because what happened was, I had a friend of my parents who suggested going to a chiropractor. And we're like, "Well, we've tried everything basically conventionally. So, like, what do we have to lose? I don't know what they're going to do, but like, sure, why not?" And the chiropractor was the first person in 9 months who just touched my head. So I actually had a dent in my head the size of a golf ball, and he had me and my mom feel it. He's like, "Did anyone just touch you?" And I was like, no. And a lot of medicine loses, structural health and biomechanical, and just like the mechanical, structural, palpatory exam skills that they used to do, because imaging and lab work and all those tests are so amazing in many ways. But basically, he touched my head, found a dent the size of a golf ball, and he did cranial work, which not a lot of chiropractors do, but some chiropractors and some DOs, doctors of osteopathy, will do that. But he basically, like geographic tectonic plates, pulled the sutures back apart, took the dent out of my head, out of my skull bone that was pushing on my brain. And within an hour, it was like someone's flipped the lights on. I was completely normal. My IQ jumped up higher than before. I went everything came right back within one treatment. I think I only saw him one or two more times after, just to follow up. So for me, that was a miracle moment of like, holy cow, I went from basically like mentally disabled to better than I was originally. So extreme pain, agony, crying, getting bullied in school, to like someone basically saved my life. And of course, this doctor's like, "Yeah, I see it all the time, no big deal." And all the medical doctors were like, "That's impossible.
Yeah,
that couldn't have happened." They were just, you get like the medical gaslighting of like, "There's no way that doesn't make sense." But I still have the CT scan. You can actually see the indent on the skull in the CT scan from before he adjusted me, which was wild. So that inspired me to get into helping other people. My mom struggled with a lot of autoimmune and chronic inflammatory issues that I helped her with. My sister had some disabilities, some neurodevelopmental stuff. And so I got into it to, help people like myself who were injured from concussions, and then also help injured musicians, because I was a saxophonist, and, help my family too.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the definition of pain to power right there. Literally, you had a skull, and now it's totally upgraded now from there. Did you feel like, when you were working with, it's the guy that you bought the practice from, right?
Different one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you see that, like that hands-on palpitation, because that made me think, I don't know, I know you listen to Dr. Perry a lot. He said it's crazy that in medical, I would even say in my field too, with personal training, that you never put your hands on. And granted, I know some ours gets a little dicey because of licensure as a personal trainer. You kind of can't do it in certain ways. It gets in that massage realm. but I know like just to put your hands on somebody and assess, that's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
you know, can you go into that a little more of, you know, how much are you doing hands-on with your people in person? I know you're a combo of both
Mhm.
online and in person, but when you're seeing somebody in person, how much hands-on things are you doing with them?
A lot. Yeah, it's the most important part of what I do. Half of the visit is usually listening, and half the visit is maybe like 5%, 10% is educating with like one or two key point takeaway points, and the rest is all hands-on work. So biofeedback and hands-on healing, which biofeedback basically means I'm doing an exam to see what their body, their biology is giving me or telling me the feedback it's giving me. So I'm doing muscle testing or pulse diagnosis or tongue or ear diagnosis in Chinese medicine. I'm basically looking for where is the problem coming from? Because just from listening, you get an idea of what you think you might know. But when you
Mhm.
run some lab tests, or especially even with the lab tests, they don't really tell you where the problem's coming from. It kind of tells you sometimes what's going on with diagnoses, but most of the time it just gives you subtle hints. And the body is what really helps clue you into where the problem really is coming from, where the root cause really is.
Yeah. Well, and maybe go into that a little more because you have a great saying. You say, if you're not testing, you're guessing. And is that's where that's coming in, right?
Yeah, 100%. If you're not testing, you're guessing. Like, for example, if someone comes in with hip pain, right? You could say, you could get a full history and listen to them. And you could say, oh, well, it started after maybe you were playing more tennis or pickleball and you slipped a little bit or fell on it. But that doesn't really tell you where the tension is or what muscles are too strong or too weak, which is like hypertonic or, basically strong or weak muscles. And it doesn't tell you, is the main issue you have to go to treat it the muscle spindle? Is it the end of the muscle? Is it the muscle tendon junction? Is it the nerve root? Is it actually the brain that's controlling that? Is it the cerebellum because you had bad balance that led to like hip instability? Or is it from weak feet that then creates a tight hip and low back because the arches collapse? So you have to look at the entire person
Mm-hmm.
and the entire nervous system chain to see where the problems are. And usually there's multiple problems. So without touching and without doing some testing, like I say, if you're not testing, you're guessing. If you're not touching and testing your patient, your client, your person, you're really going to miss stuff because it doesn't matter what you think you know. It matters what their body says. Like a lot of people think like, oh, I know what's going on. It's a hip thing. Maybe it's a tight TFL. Maybe I need to strengthen their glutes.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to work on some foot strength. But it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what your body as the patient client knows or what it says. Because we have all these ideas like you need this vitamin, you need this therapy, you need this exercise. But we're wrong almost half the time when you actually
I
trust the
agree.
body and listen to the body. If you're doing it right, you're wrong all the time, which is a
Mhm.
great thing. A lot of practitioners are like, ooh, that hurts my ego if I'm wrong most of the time.
Yeah.
But we are wrong a lot of the time, which is a wonderful thing.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's quote unquote wrong. It's just like, okay, we just checked that box. You know, this comes to mind.
Yes.
I had a client the other day we were doing it was just RDLs off the X3 band, and she had like a weird hip thing that we were trying to help her with, and it felt a lot better after I did some different, therapies with her. And I was like, well, I'm glad we did that because she looked upset and disappointed when it came back. She's like, oh no. She's like, it was just feeling better. This has been bothering me for so long. But then we did that move. I'm like, well, if we didn't do that, we didn't check that box, you would have went out into the real world. You would have went to bend over and pick up something, or, how much do you hinge or bend to pick something up? And it would have came right back. And
Right.
it's like, it's good. Now we have that box to check.
Yeah.
And what I think is cool where you're going with, I didn't know this is where the 100% where the conversation would go, but because you do a lot of stuff, I would say, with disease and health, and not that health and physical things are separated. I kind of think they are, like you were saying a little bit in people's viewpoint. It was
Right.
like, you have like we were talking about that what you said, functional medicine, like influencer type, like everything's just the labs,
Yeah.
and it's the biochemical. I know you like the biochemical, physical, and emotional, viewpoint.
Triad of health. Yeah.
But that physical piece people miss a lot. Like I've seen some people, they'll see the chiro, they'll see, they have a therapist, they have about 6 people in their corner and they're doing everything. But then I just like watch them and they struggle to do like 3 push-ups. And I'm like, maybe it's not what you think it is. I'm like, you're physically struggling, like your
Yeah.
system it's kind of weak, to be honest with you, not to put it too harshly, but it's kind of the truth.
Right. Isn't it Dr. Tennant who says the muscles are battery packs to the organs?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's a key concept we should explain. It's basically where if you have muscle weakness, your organs are going to be weak. So it doesn't matter if you have a heart problem, but your grip strength is terrible, you're still going to have heart issues because your grip strength goes with your heart. If you have a lung problem, but your shoulders are really weak, then doesn't matter how much vitamin C you take or how much garlic or mullein you take or how much broccoli you take or other mushrooms for your lungs to get better and heal. Doesn't matter how much N-acetylcysteine or glutathione or anti-inflammatories you take. If your shoulders are like a 0 out of 10 on the strength scale, then you're not going to have any extra battery pack. So if your nutrition is off just a little, or if you have some grief that hits the lungs, your shoulder's going to like blow a fuse or blow circuit. So the structural, chemical, emotional is a really important triad. That's a little bit abstract for people because it's like, oh no, more than 1 or 2 things to remember. But the original founder of chiropractor said thoughts. Right. I know I'm like, you can tell I've been educating for a while because people can only remember like 1 thing at a time, usually, sometimes 2. But if you can remember 3 things, it's the 3 T's of thought, trauma, and toxins, which was the original chiropractic that turned into thought being emotional, mental, emotional, trauma being physical trauma, micro traumas of sitting all day since sitting is the new smoking, or actual trauma of falling. And then there's also toxins, which is biochemical, lack of nutrients, or toxic overload, or pesticides, or all the other toxins we're exposed to, forever chemicals and plastics these days. So we're all kind of barraged with a lot of emotional stress we don't often have time to process. We often are barraged with a lot of biochemical stress and toxins and lack of nutrient value in the food and soil. And we're barraged with a lot of sitting, sedentary living, because, we're all basically using like electrified scooters and electric bikes and cars and motorcycles rather than walking, rather than using our own bodies to build strength. We're basically outsourcing our own power, which makes us weak over time.
I like that, the outsourcing part. Because, especially when we were at your seminar, I think that's what I was like. I was listening, to especially like the intention piece with people. And the biggest thing I'm noticing with social media is like everything is so, and probably the truth is like it's marketing, right? People jump in on there. They want to sell a supplement. They want to sell a done for you service, essentially, right? And in your opinion, how much of healing is generated from the person itself?
That's a really good question. No one's asked, but I think how much is generated from the person?
Yeah, because I would say because everyone is so. I guess a better way to word it, because it's kind of abstract, right?
No, it's
Everything
a really good
is
question,
so
though.
we're so bombarded by external influences.
Right.
I think people miss that, like introspective, taking time to themselves to figure out their own healing. And I definitely think nowadays it's good to have great information and get it from someone else and have knowledge. I look at it as like somebody like you and I, we're more guides than anything. We're not the, I get mixed feelings with the term healer, because I think it takes it out of the person's hands, and I don't like that part.
Right. I think probably I would have to go like 2/3. And part of me wants to say like 90% or 99% is in our hands, but I really say it's like 2/3. And part of why I say it is a framework that Dr. Zach Bush mentions, or first place I heard it at least, but it's been around for a while. But it's basically there's like 3 stages of healing. There's the first stage where you're a little baby, infant, you're not self-sufficient, and you need a doctor to save your life. That's like a hospital. You get injured, you cut off a finger or an arm, and you need them to come save you. You need a savior, you need a parent figure, and you're the little infant. You don't have that much knowledge, awareness, power, wisdom, education. And then stage 2 is doctor, which originally meant docere, to teach. So that's where you have a teacher who teach. That's a little where functional medicine is supposed to lie, which is where doctors teach you how to have a healthy lifestyle, what vitamins are and how to use them, what lab tests are and what they mean and how to interpret them and when to run them. And that's where my membership is. My membership's like in the last 2/3, but it's like basically it's like trying to educate you. So that's your like a teenage stage into college years where you're starting to get more awareness, you're starting to take more ownership and get more power. The third stage is doctor, practitioner, trainer, or whatever, as a shaman or a coach or a guide, which is where they witness your own independence and your own knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, and your own innate intelligence and your own beauty of your authentic spirit. You know more of who you are at that point. And that's where they're just guiding and giving you gentle nudges and coaching and little like, hey, are you aware of this? Are you aware of this? What do you think about this? And it's more of a motivational interviewing thing. But if someone has zero knowledge of health, body, movement, vitamins, whatever, you kind of have to carry them for a little bit. You have to kind of parent them. And then they slowly try to, it's like, oh, I don't want to just pay for a trainer for 50 years. Maybe I'll pay for a trainer for like 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And I'll sort of like learn it over time. And then I can work out a little bit on my own, a little bit with the trader. And I think like the goal is to kind of get people to be fully independent. But there's a huge learning curve because we don't in gym class learn about our bodies or proper movement or functional movement patterns, or we don't learn how our brain connects with our bodies. We don't learn muscles or battery packs of organs.
Nowadays, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we don't learn that. Really vital stuff is kind of absent in modern education.
Well, I think it's like, I'm sure you've seen that video around like in the 60s when Kennedy was president and they had like the presidential, like the fitness tests and things like that. And those guys were jacked, man. Like, have you seen that video of them like climbing around?
Yes.
And stuff?
Yes,
Yeah,
I am.
yeah. Such a cool video. So my question with when the thing that you referenced with Zach Bush, what is that called? So maybe people could look that up on their own and kind of go through it.
I actually have no idea. I just think it's like something he said.
Health consciousness, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's sort of like the stages of a patient's growth cycle. It's almost like the archetypes in a way. I guess you could say it's like 3 archetypes of the doctor-patient relationship.
Yeah.
It's like savior, teacher, coach, or guide.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main theme. And that's why I said 2/3 is like you sometimes need the awareness to come from outside of yourself. Like if you could do it you can't do it all yourself, right? But because sometimes you need lab tests, you need someone else to give you the awareness because we really are in a symbiotic relationship with each other and with nature. And our brains work by comparing and contrasting. So the only way we learn that we're a problem or we have a diagnosis or a symptom or that's not normal is by having other people who are normal to compare it to. Yeah, that's why a lot of people think that it's normal to have, no butt, or it's normal to have no 6-pack, or it's normal to have like no jawline or all these other things. So it's normal to have no chin.
Yeah, it makes me think that you talk about this a lot, is that community piece, but I want to point out for people is, they have I'm sure you've heard the saying, especially in businesses, your net worth is equal to your network, right? And this is where like you're able to connect with others and things like that. And, like you're the compilation of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? So like we need to learn via contrast and things like that. But I wanted to ask for you is, you're like, people are in this, they're like in this baby phase, right? Or teenage phase, or they're like the older, wiser adult. Where would you say a lot of the population is nowadays? And that I would say like knowledge and maybe like responsibility and accountability part to themselves. Like, where do you think people are on the spectrum?
I think we're in between stage 1 and 2. We're maybe in like preteen. We're in like puberty is where we're at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really awkward. You think you know everything, you don't know much at all, but people think they do. That's what I see, at least with patients in social media. They come in thinking like, oh yeah, I know this and that. I'm like, well, there's still a lot to learn. I think we're in that stage where we're starting to realize what we don't know. Like that's the next step. It's like when you gain awareness or intelligence. It's sort of like first you think you know everything, but you don't actually know it. First you know nothing and you don't know anything. Then you know nothing but think you know something. Then you know something, but you don't actually know everything. And then you know some things and think you know everything. And then you know a lot, but you actually realize there's a lot you still have left to learn.
Yeah, that's
So
probably the tail end of that
yeah,
phase. Say, yeah.
yeah. But I don't know. It's also like reminds me of the line where it's like good times create soft people create hard times create like tough tough people create
Yeah.
for good times. And I
Do you
think
think
we're in a
we're
phase where we have had really good times from like the 60s 70s until now, and we have a lot of soft people, and we're getting some hard times. We've been in some hard times since the pandemic, and I think there's more hard times that had to start to toughen everybody up.
Yeah, and if you're looking at health stats, we're definitely there with health related outcomes. What is it, like 78% of people are obese? And that's
Yeah, the
just
average.
medical. It probably has gone up. I think that was maybe 1 to 2 years ago. I heard that stat. So
Yeah, it's bad. It's like 50% of kids have a chronic illness. 90% of people are either overweight or have cardiovascular disease. You got average American taking 7 different medications a year. It's just, it
insane.
doesn't look great. Yeah.
Yeah, 7. That's crazy.
7, I think 3 or 4 a day, but 7 different ones a year.
Okay, wow. And
Oh, and
that's
50% of Americans have a mental health disorder. So when
see,
it seems
that one's
like
crazy too. Yeah,
that's nuts, like when you really think
yeah.
about it, I'm like, that's why dating
It's
was so
nuts,
hard.
literally nuts,
I was
right?
like,
Yeah,
that's why finding like someone to date who wasn't on psych meds was so difficult. Not to say like that's a bad thing if you need to be on psych meds, but like
yeah.
it really is hard to find someone when you're dating who's like mentally, physically well these days.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. How do you? I know because you got a kid on the way. How do
Yeah.
you like? How does your lens of the future look? Are you more on the optimistic side? Are you a little? I mean, you tend to be a pretty optimistic guy overall. I mean, you got a
Yeah.
little bit of dark humor, but that's that makes our gym sessions pretty fun, if you ask me.
Yeah. I'm optimistic about the future and having kids. I think it's a little bit of a weak thing where people are like, I'm not going to have kids because the world is too hard. I'm like, no, that's a cop out. You are so hormonally weak that you can't raise kids right now. Like you probably could, like so many people are just infertile, and it's because they're hormonally weak. Their adrenals or their thyroids are shot. They don't like the winter. They don't wake up happy in the morning. They're tired midday. They crash after work. So a lot of people are just not hormonally strong. And I think when people get physically and hormonally strong, they can handle the challenges of life, and then they have enough energy to give outside of themselves and their job and their relationship. But so much people are just weak and tired, and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but they don't know what to do. But so many people just don't have the energy to even like give more than they're currently giving. They're in like a compassion fatigue or a work fatigue. School kind of tires people out, and I think we're all sort of led, at least our generation was sort of led to believe that once you get your degree or once you get into the right college, like that's the end game to get into a good college. Then you just have to get your degree and like everything's going to work out. Little do they tell you that like you get your
Yeah.
degree and then there's a job and there's like how to actually succeed at the job is way harder than school was. And so you're already tired, like working your butt off to just get through school, get into a good college, get through school. And then you have to figure out how to like make ends meet and work with the tough economy. But then I think people then realize like, okay, I did that. I made financially, I kind of like am doing okay. And then you're like, oh, this is empty and meaningless. Now we have to like do community work or like get enough energy where we feel good. And then we can give more to our community or create a healthy family or like do more outside of just our selfish needs and wants.
And when you say that hormonally weak piece with people, do you think that really fits in that paradigm of the trauma, thoughts, and toxins with people? Would you probably say, you like to use root causes a lot and go into that with people? Would you
Yeah.
probably say that's a big root cause for those three things, or for
Yeah.
being hormonally weak?
Yeah, people are definitely hormonally weak. It's a big, big root cause. A lot of times when people start taking just like a B complex of some vitamin D and adrenal support or adaptogens, they feel way better. Maybe like a multivitamin that gives them some iodine and selenium in a high enough doses for their thyroid. They feel way better. It's really surprising. But you just support someone a little bit hormonally, they typically feel a lot better. But people are hormonally weak because they don't have a butt. Like if someone doesn't have like, let's just make people laugh. Say if someone doesn't have a juicy booty, they're hormonally weak. So like, right. So if you can't like get up from a chair without leaning forward, then you're hormonally weak. So if you're sitting down, like stand up. If you have to lean forward and your butt's weak and you're hormonally weak. So like your reproductive organs,
that in the car, folks.
Your jings. Yeah, don't try it in the car. But like there's just a lot of tests you can do for people to see where they're at. You can shine a light in someone's eye and watch their pupil get smaller. And if the pupil stays small, it should stay small for at least 5 seconds, if not 10 seconds. But if the pupil gets small and then gets big really quick or starts going in like bigger, smaller, and kind of oscillating in and out, that means you're basically under adrenal stress. And it's really like your midbrain where the eye centers regulate in your brainstem. But usually that's from too much adrenaline or adrenal gland stress. So again, a sign of probably nervous system exhaustion, adrenal fatigue, et cetera.
What would you say? Because that's probably a good way, because you and I love the nervous system and talking about it. What, if, especially that pupillary reflex test you're doing, do you find a lot of people that's off? They're getting that sympathetic response?
Oh yeah, pretty much like 90% of my patients, when they're new patients, have that off. Or you come in, another good one is stick your tongue out and just like let it hang out of your mouth like a dog, but don't pant, just let it hang out of your mouth. And if it's quivering at all, or it's not like steady state, that's also a good sign of stress. It's like internal trembling, like anxiety and stress. So there's a lot of people who are like, I feel fine, but they come in and you like look at their tongue and their tongue's like shaking like a leaf on a tree. And you're like, what's really going on? Like you're definitely, it's like the duck on the pond syndrome. Like they seem calm, but a lot of people internally are not mentally well.
Yeah, right. I like that one. So what would you say because you said it's about 90% of your people, what are some of the common things that you're seeing that are throwing them in that sympathetic response?
Biggest ones are
response is probably just a state at this point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the two biggest things are phones and not enough time outside. I think yeah. So phone usage, you can check that really quickly on your phone just to see how many hours a day you're on it. If you're on it for work, that's different. But if you're on it for more than an hour or two a day, whether it's like TV screen time, video games, phone times, that's usually going to increase sympathetic dominance, which is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn stress reaction, versus parasympathetic is the calm, the breaks the nervous system, the rest and digest, be chill kind of nervous system. So when you look at anything close up in front of you, that creates a stress response. So even if you have a lot of stress, at least watch TV more than 10 feet away or watch it far away, because that's going to actually activate parasympathetics a little bit more. So like if you had to watch something, I would say don't hold it in front of your face, like put it on your TV or like, send it to your TV. But if you get out in nature, you're going to be looking far away, which increases the parasympathetics.
Yeah.
So
I just had this funny image of people holding their like plasma TV in front of them.
Yeah. Like the kids who sit like 5 feet from the TV.
But not good for the nervous system, right?
Yeah, that's why like kids sometimes when they like want more dopamine or they want more like stimulus, they'll sit right in front of the TV and be like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! How cool!" I'm like front row of the IMAX, but that's actually it's stimulating, it's cool, but it's gonna burn out your nervous system.
Oh yeah, and that's funny because I'm sure parents have seen this, and I've seen it with my nephews. You put that iPad in front of them, and then you take that iPad away. It's like World War III, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for screens, but what's telling is all of the tech entrepreneurs and all the schools in Silicon Valley in California, all the wealthy people pay extra for their kids to use textbooks and not use screens. So even though their whole job is screens, they know how bad it is. It's kind of like people who work for Anheuser-Busch or they work for Bud Light or something, but like they're not going to give alcohol to their kids. Tech's the same way. Like a lot of people like it. It's really useful, but it's bad for us in excess.
Yeah, that's like Bill Gates won't let his kids use his tech, right? Have you heard that one before?
Yeah, exactly.
So, in people, so let's talk about like, you know, one, obviously reducing screen time, not getting it up close to you, reduce the distance. What do you, before I go in like the antithesis of like, all right, how do we get more parasympathetic? What are your thoughts like with the blue light, things like that? Do you like people using different types of filters, things like that?
Yeah, blue light's really helpful. There are filters for the screen that'll like turn your screen red.
Mhm.
You can also wear blue light blocker glasses. They generally have to be colored though. Yellow for daytime, the more red, orange, burnt orange, reddish ones are better for nighttime use. If you had to get one, you could just use the red ones all the time.
Mhm.
But there are some things you can get for your computer screen to go like an actual physical screen that goes in front of your screen that'll block some blue light as well. But for the most part, I don't like wearing the glasses for some reason. It just like it looks weird. It looks kind of goofy. It messes with me. So what I do is I just try my best to not use screens an hour or more before bedtime and do
Yeah.
whatever Instagram, social media work I need to do in the morning and do it outside or do it near an open window.
Mhm.
Um, the window actually will block some of the healthy UV light that you need
Mhm.
from sunlight. So I try to do it outside or with an open window or with a window that has it's open with the screen. The screen is fine too. But the glass will mess with some of the benefits you're getting from sunlight. So I think doing it outside or doing it near a window helps a lot. It's hard in winter, but basically the main thing I tell people is to get outside and ground and get outside for as much sunlight as possible. A lot of people know about red light therapy and blue light, and they know red light's probably generally good, blue light's kind of bad. But blue light is what wakes you up in the morning. That's the sunrise is more blue-ish, and sunset is more of that beautiful red sunset.
Golden hour.
So, yeah. So when you get the blue light on your skin, that helps wake you up in the morning, and that's what helps you sleep better at night. Is that early sunrise, and there's still a decent amount of red light in the morning, but that protects you a little bit when you get that early morning sun from getting sunburnt midday. So if you're
Yeah.
outside all day, you're less likely to get sunburned because in the morning it gets more red light, which soothes your skin and is anti-inflammatory. And then at night, it basically is the anti-inflammatory, soothing, healing lights that again will keep you from getting burned after being outside in midday.
Yeah.
So in some ways, the early sunrise, sunset light or like twilight hours are the natural sunscreen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was going to make a joke like, but isn't UV light bad? Like I wanted you to go with that because one of my favorite saying, like you get in the Jack Cruz realm, he'll call it like your solar callus, right? Building that up in the morning, building that
Yeah.
up in the evening time. And also, and you can build on this, is what I've noticed. It's kind of like exercise, right? Like you got a desk job, you haven't been working out in years and you just jump into like a hardcore CrossFit workout. Like you've not been doing that. You're going to be sore and miserable and there's potential for injury, right? And I always tell people this to my clients is like, you've been hibernating in the winter and then you pick the hottest day to take your kids to the beach. And of course you're going to burn. Like your body is like not used to it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you wouldn't take someone who never goes to the gym and then be like, here, bench 500 pounds. Like, good luck.
Right. Right.
It's too much. It's a stress is your body adapting to change. So if it's too much of a change that you can't adapt to, you're going to burn, you're going to get injured. It's not going to be good for you.
Right.
So you have to work out your body with the sun, and UV light is not bad. I have a phrase we all are essentially delicate houseplants with more complicated emotions. We need sun, we need water, we need some nutrients, and we need to deal with our emotional stuff.
Right. Exactly.
The worst punishment imaginable for humanity is not death, it's solitary confinement, because we need people, we need to talk to people, we need sunlight. And when we don't get sunlight, we get depressed. That's seasonal affective disorder. When we don't talk to people, we get depressed. So what did people do during the pandemic? They voluntarily solitary confinement themselves. So I think it makes sense why we went from 20-30% of us having mental illness to half of America having mental illness.
It jumped up that much, and that's
that
after
much.
the pandemic. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
because we basically punished ourselves out of fear.
Yeah, and this, before we get sidetracked with, because we went from nervous system to circadian, which obviously they're really tied together. Before we keep going down the circadian, and we definitely need to hit on relationships. I want to go back to that nervous system before it gets lost, because we kind of left people on a cliffhanger there.
Let's go.
We went into the sympathetic side. I want you to talk more of what are and this actually could tie into relationships, is that parasympathetic side. How do we, shift from that sympathetic to parasympathetic? What are some of the best, I'd probably say, self techniques, but also what you like most as a practitioner, when you got somebody hands-on or things like that?
Let's see. I'm going to reference my own Instagram, because I just made a post on this 2 days ago. It did really well. It was the top 10 ways to basically activate your parasympathetic nervous system. And the number one way is physical touch. It's the fastest way to increase your immune system and to regulate your nervous system, which is, again, another reason why part of when medicine started declining was when we stopped doing hands-on exams and touching patients, because the power of touch is profoundly healing. Now, you obviously want consensual touch, but if you don't have a human for hugs or cuddles or consensual touch, then a pet works great. Cats, dogs are better than antidepressants in most research studies. So if you get a hug someone for 10, 20 seconds or longer. That's more regenerative to the nervous system. So number one is hugs. Number two is walking outside, which we talked about. Number three is looking upwards. So cloud gazing, star gazing. When you can't sleep at night, my secret hack is go outside and just look at the stars and the moon. It'll usually start to, over time, it'll start to regulate your melatonin circadian rhythm.
What if you're inside, Brad? Would that looking upwards still be beneficial?
It is. Yep. Or close your eyes and look up, even though your eyes are closed. Take a few deep breaths. That's a good one. Number four is be in water. So, yep, be in water, showers, baths, go near a lake, a river, put on some river noise or rain or thunder sound. Get a little water fountain next to your desk or something like that, a little desk fountain. Water is very calming and soothing to the nervous system. In Chinese medicine, the nervous system is your water element. It's your brain, spinal cord, or your bones, kidney, bladder are part of the water element. So water is very soothing to the nervous system. Number five is laying down and going into extension, doing snow angels on the ground or on your bed or on a couch, or just lay on a exercise ball and just hang backwards, basically. Number six is lengthen your exhales. So when you're sitting there, you could do this very easily breathing, where you just exhale for double or triple the inhale, or exhale as long as you can. Number seven is, I say, feel it to heal it. Just whatever you're stressed about, feel it for a couple minutes, and then let it go and feel the exact opposite for a couple minutes. Number eight is to tense and then relax every part of your body, or different parts of your body. So your feet, your ankles, tense them for a little bit and then relax them. And then just work your way through your body. 9 is singing, humming, dancing. So different fun stuff. And lastly, 10 is talking to a friend or family member for more than 5 minutes. All simple, easy, free things you can do to regulate your nervous system back to parasympathetic dominance, which is where it's generally good to be. Now, if there are times to go, you basically don't want to be in parasympathetic all the time, because you just be resting and tired all the time. You want to be able to fluctuate quickly in and out. And this is true with heart rate variability. So when you have an Oura ring or a Whoop band, those are great ways to tell how your nervous system is doing, because you can see how quickly you get in and out of a stress state or a sympathetic nervous system state. Because it's not necessarily true that we all want to be chill and calm all the time, just like you don't want to be perfectly balanced and boring and flat all the time. You want to be able to adapt quickly from stress, just like you don't want to necessarily eat keto all the time, because you never want your blood sugar to spike. You want to be able to have a blood sugar spike stress, and then your body regulates it as it's supposed to.
And in your opinion, and I'm sure this is individual, how much do you like people to see a bounce between that sympathetic and parasympathetic? Like if you had to give it a number, I think you need to be about 70% parasympathetic, 30 sympathetic, or what's that ratio for you?
Yeah, I think 70-30 is probably good. Maybe 80-20. It kind of depends on what your lifestyle is or what you're doing right now. Like if you're a soldier at war, you might be more like 20-80, right? If you're in battle, you want to be more sympathetic and awake and aware and in a certain brain state of like alpha brain waves. If you're at a desk job and it's like you're not fighting any major battles, you might be fighting mental battles with your coworkers or your clients, but you probably want to be more 80-20. So it really depends what type of job you're doing.
Yeah, and are you having like, I'm sure this depends on the person too, but if say their job is very stressful, are you having them do, are you giving them, I guess sometimes people get a little obsessive with it, but are you giving them like, hey, morning routine, I suggest that you do this before you start your day? I've had some people like, they just roll out of bed and they got kids and stuff. So I was like, hey, just do some of these breathing drills or movement things during the day. Like I call them like little movement snacks or like, sneak it in during the day.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely have people do that. Ask them like what they do. A lot of times I'll just ask people like, what do you do to de-stress? And go from there. So some people like, nothing, or I just unconsciously, like I'm not mindful about that at all. All I do is, eat too much at night or I snack too much and then I watch TV and I kind of just use escapism and numbing tactics and self-soothing things without being mindful about it. So I think the first step is sort of like, do they have awareness of their stress? Do they even know what they're stressed about? And then how do they have a strategy, or what strategies do they already know or use for coping? And then it's sort of having that conversation of like, go through that list of 10, like what works for you? What have you tried? What have you not tried? And then finding things that make sense for them given their schedule of like, hey, let's shift the morning schedule. Let's shift one thing in the evening schedule. Or what you do is I said this in the recent seminar, and I think I got to keep saying it. It was make your rituals a ritual. So when you're brushing your teeth, maybe do some eye drills or some breath work while you're brushing your teeth. Or you start to do gratitude every time, like think of 5-10 things you're grateful for that day while you're brushing your teeth. Or take your ritual of making the coffee. Every time you drink your coffee, you do gratitude, or you're doing it while you're stacking it with something else. So the way you do getting dressed, the way you brush your teeth, the way you shower could be very calming and relaxing in the water, or it could be like, oh, I got to get going and get ready and all the stuff. So I think like make the rituals that you do every day a ritual, put intention and some sort of expectation behind them.
Yeah, just make your unconscious conscious, right? You're already doing those things anyway, so might as well get more of a benefit to them.
Right. Especially the commute to work for a lot of people is very long. So make the commute a profoundly healing thing, or something where you check in with your goals, or you start to, call people you miss, or like make the most of your commute, or make the most of these sort of like dead space times in your day.
No eye drills while you're driving though. Just
saying. Yep.
Got to work on my spine and
no eye drills driving. Yeah. If you're taking the train, go for it. People might think you're weird, but who cares? You have to be considered weird to be healthy these days, I think.
I agree with that. That's why I used to follow. I still do. I don't see his stuff as much anymore. Dr. Tommy John, like that guy would just bang out things like in the airport. That Spinal series. I think, and maybe get your opinion on this. And you and I both were joking about this a lot. The seminar is like almost like, and this could actually be a good segue into something, is like health things that you can do without not looking weird in public. What are some of your go-tos? Yeah.
What are health things you can do? Eating well.
Well, right. No one's going to give you crap for eating, right? Yeah.
Well, the people you're eating with might, but eating well.
Too. Yeah.
Hydrating. That's a good thing. What can you do? Um, hmm.
And
Stretching,
try to
gentle
throw
stretches.
throw some physical things in there too. Because I feel like it's
Yeah,
easy to, all right, I'm gonna drink some water. Like, okay,
right.
like
You can do
very
breath work.
creative guy, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
the breath
Yeah, you
one would
start
be
doing
good.
yoga. Yoga at the airport, people look at you weird.
Yeah, I've never done qigong at the airport, not yet.
I've seen some people doing it.
Really, that's funny.
Yeah, it. Yeah, I have seen it been done before, but
You
I don't
said
know. I think
stretching. I think you can get away with stretching. I don't think people are gonna look at you too weird with stretching.
no,
And
but you
people
go
are
like
already
full
kind of
workout
doing it
mode.
naturally anyway. They'll hit like one of
Yeah,
these, like
true.
little stretches.
Yeah, you could walk up the stairs at the airport instead of take the escalators.
Yeah, my girlfriend laughs at me because I do that.
Yeah, I did that too.
Yeah. Okay. Um, there was one that I really liked that you brought up at the seminar, and a lot of people, because like when I have people do eye drills in the gym, I have them use targets and things like that, use the wall.
Yep.
Um, but I like that you incorporated with eyes closed, and I think that would be because
Mhm.
we've talked so much about the nervous system. Maybe you should maybe go into that of some of these eye movements. One, how beneficial they are, your experience of them. I know this is probably why you're dominating in the pickleball courts, some of the eye drills we've been doing, but
Yeah.
your experience of it, how much do you like that for people, kind of your experience there?
Yeah, I would say eye movements are one of the fastest ways to regulate your nervous system. Which is why, like, one of those top 10 things was like cloud gazing. Generally, when you look down and close, it's more sympathetic activating. Looking up is more calming, relaxing. So I had to testify in court one time, not for like me or anything personally. It was for someone I treated one time who was in a car accident. But just being in a courtroom and being interrogated about their medical history was making me shake. And I don't have anxiety. I'm not like an anxious person. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of like a stressful environment. I'm glad I didn't become a lawyer. And I called one of my friends afterwards. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm literally like left the courthouse. I'm still kind of like shaking. And she does trauma therapy. And she's like, just
Mhm.
look up and take a few deep breaths. Like, look up at like the tall skyscrapers.
Mhm.
Within about 20 seconds, I was completely regulated again. Like, I wasn't shaking. I was
That's
calmed
so cool.
down.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the things, like tipping your head back, looking upwards to like the top of the sky. And I'm like, wow, that worked instantly. And I know it's the same thing when we're training or working out and you're having me
Mhm.
do eye drills. Like, I notice when I come in stressed or if I don't sleep a lot, which was true for like a year, I wasn't sleeping enough.
Yeah. Right.
And I
And
come in like,
especially the
oh,
night before we would train too.
yeah, it was always the night before. It
Yeah.
was like I slept great all week. And the night before, I'm like, I know James could fix me. So
Right.
like,
Right.
but like doing the eye drills would instantly regulate my nervous system back to baseline within a few minutes. So there's a lot of ones you can do. They're kind of complicated, but you can obviously they can train with you online, but
Yeah. Yeah.
or in person. But
You can do
yeah, eye exercises are so useful. There's something called functional neurology, where it's basically different doctors and other people and yourself and me who train to basically use almost like therapy or physical therapy or occupational therapy for your nervous system.
Yeah.
And the main thing that all these functional neurology doctors do is have people do eye drills. It's like the number one way to regulate the nervous system for learning disabilities, for mental health issues, for post concussion rehab, for all kinds of nervous system problems. It's the one of the best ways to access different parts of the brain and strengthen and balance out different nervous system issues.
Two things come to mind. One, it's you always forget about little things. I do what I do when I'm training people is I'm watching what they do like subconsciously, right? Like, do they reach back? Do they stretch? Do their eyes move a certain way? Are they like, fiddling with their hands? Things like that. Because I think people subconsciously tell you what they need, where they need stimulation, where they need activation, or where they need to like calm something down. And when you were saying with your courtroom situation specifically, this connected a dot for me was when I was coaching football this year, and we had so many close games. Like you talk about, like that in a good way, I had so much adrenaline like all season, and I
Yeah.
definitely had a big crash towards the end, but because we had like 5 to 6 games with one possession or less where we won or we lost a close one. And I remember in those situations where I feel like I had to call an important play, guess what I always did? I would always look up and go, okay, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
what do we call here? It was always the thing I did. And it's so funny of that subconscious, like, all right, this is what you need to do. And, I know we can tie this back to where we were before. Was people are in those 3 archetypes of where they're at consciousness with, their healthcare provider.
Yeah.
I think like if you can bring awareness to people with that, and then they can start to do these things to regulate themselves, because, that was such a big stressful situation for you. That probably could have leaked into the rest of the day if you didn't do that. You would have,
Oh yeah.
and it would have affected you the rest of the day for sure.
Yep.
Like so many people are not doing anything to change their state.
Oh yeah, they get bothered by like, Aunt Judy at Thanksgiving who said that
Right.
like you're a libtard or you're a Trump lover or you're whatever, you're effing crazy or like whatever, like what's up with your pronouns or who knows, like all the other triggering things that they can say.
Yeah.
And then it bothers them for hours, let alone days, weeks, months, or they remember it like years later. I was like, how are you still this bothered by something that happened like years ago? And it's because people don't know how to regulate their nervous system when those things happen, and then it stays stuck. Like the issues are in their tissues, which is why you have to feel the tissues to feel like where they're tense and where stuff is still held. But you can have toxic stress from decades ago that's still held in your body, which is why sometimes when people do deep tissue work, Rolfing body work, deep tissue massages, deep stretches, they can cry, they can laugh, they can get angry because they're still holding those neurochemicals in their body. And if you're listening to this and you're like an engineer type, look up the book Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert, P-E-R-T. She goes through all the science and the research behind how we can physically store emotions inside of our tissues.
Yeah, and I think for you especially, I feel like you're really known for like adrenals and things like that for people. How are you tying a lot of those things with people? Like, are you giving them those, like, okay, hey, I know you're going to see Aunt Judy. This is what you do. Yeah. And I know actually this would be a good plug for you, because I think the NET is probably big for this.
Yes. Yeah. NET is big. It's sort of
a little bit with the NET and things like that.
Yeah. A lot of times, like one thing I'll do is have them visualize how they want interactions to go before it happens. So if they know they're going to have a tough conversation with somebody, the spouse or friend or coworker or boss, they're going to ask for a raise or whatever it is that stresses people out, I'll have them visualize it going in a few different ways beforehand and like feel it and think how they would want to react depending on what might happen. So like if they're going to talk to Aunt Judy and she says this really triggering thing about politics or your gender or your age or your weight or whatever triggers you, you don't have a partner, why aren't you married, what's wrong with you, whatever it is, I think you go and you imagine that happening and you just say like, how do I want to respond? Like pause, how do I want to respond, and pre-visualize it before it happens. It's the same thing with sports and athletics. If you visualize yourself lifting the weight before you do it, your cerebellum can actually train yourself how to pre-wire those patterns before they happen. And then when it happens, you're better at it. Same thing like when people visualize getting a touchdown or throwing the winning, I can't think of the winning throw, or like you catch the winning ball to get a touchdown, game-winning throw. It's like if you visualize it before, it's more likely to happen. And when you visualize, even like when pianists or musicians visualize, you can actually practice without your instrument and just do it in your head and wire those connections to be more permanent in your brain. So you can get benefits of mentally practicing without actually physically practicing, whether it's for sports or for music or for talking to Aunt Judy or your boss. All those things can be really helpful. But NET, you can look up netmindbody.com. It's called Neuro-Emotional Technique. There's a free documentary on YouTube called Stressed. And it basically is a technique in which you're using biofeedback via muscle testing to tell you what your subconscious is stressed about or not. So what that means is, practically, if we're going to dumb it down, it's the number one healing tool you could probably ever find. That's my personal belief. I think it's the secret unlock to achieving the life of your dreams, because everyone is stuck in meditation. So unless you're like, hypnosis is kind of in subconscious as well, but like it's a lot harder to do hypnosis well, I think, and it's a little more, it takes more skill. NET is, you can learn it in one weekend for most practitioners who can diagnose and lay on their hands. And it's a way to shift that subconscious of the person. And the reason why subconscious is so important in that phrase is that most people are only operating out of their conscious, which is your internal thoughts and meditation and affirmations. And it's everything you're saying and thinking about yourself. It's not actually getting into the feelings and your subconscious emotional state and the reason why you get triggered. So what we're doing in therapy almost always with a talk therapist is you're just talking about your problems consciously, and you're learning to do what I just sort of said. It's like visualize what's happening, pattern interrupt, take a pause, and then like recreate it consciously. But with NET, you're completely removing the trigger in the first place. So you can manifest things. You can clear the reasons why you're self-sabotaging yourself and not living your dream life, because it's all because of subconscious programming. Like everybody knows what they need to do, but they're just not doing it. And usually the reason why is because there's an emotional block or a limiting belief system, or someone told you weren't good enough, or daddy never loved me, daddy wasn't there, mommy was too critical, whatever it is. It's some feeling that's holding you back, because we all make emotional decisions and justify them with logic. So if you want to get to the subconscious emotions that drive all of our actions that lead to success in life, NET is what I believe is currently the fastest way to change and shift that.
Because I'm lucky I have guys like you, Abby. I'm not trained in NET, but I definitely know some similar ones to it.
Yeah.
How can people find, NET practitioners near them?
The netmindbody.com, they have a practitioner locator, or you can search neuro-emotional technique near New York City, near Atlanta, Georgia, near San Francisco, California, near your town. And they might not be on the practitioner finder as like a certified person, but they might say they might have taken a couple of classes in neuro-emotional technique and be really good at it, but they just don't pay to be on the practitioner finder website.
Yeah. And I think you sold it really well on how important this is, but I'll tell you, there's a reason I have my company called Pain to Power, because I had a very traumatic childhood. And, if you play sports long enough, there's a lot of trauma associated with, especially sports like football, wrestling, physical contact sports, multiple concussions, things like that, and all the hits you're taking. That was probably the thing that got me over the hump the quickest, was these emotional techniques. Now, like you said, if there's somebody who's like in that engineer mindset and they're not very open to this, what would you kind of say to those people? Because there's some people that I think you sold it well enough, and I think you have enough authority to speak on it. When you say something, you got to do this for your health and healing. But if somebody's on the fence, what would you say to them about this? The emotional side for them, mental, emotional.
Yeah, I would say even if you go to the netmindbody.com website, like there's research on there, literally like on the homepage, if you scroll midway to the bottom, there's research showing before and after doing NET that the limbic system in a functional MRI calms down. So like the research is there, you just have to believe it. And what I would say is, I say this all the time, like logic is fast, science is slow. And you have to look for people who are getting the results that you want to get. And taking someone like you had, where you had a traumatic upbringing, and then you've turned that into a life where you're super empowered, and you've like completely 180'd or 360'd from where you grew up. And the same way, like I had a family of divorced parents and a lot of conflict. And like I worked through a ton of relational stuff and who I was attracted. I was like attracted to the wrong type of person. I was not attracted to healthy relationships at all. And like changing that visceral response is totally different than saying like, oh yeah, I know that this person is bad for me, but I'm just going to like choose someone else, even though I'm not attracted to them. But like really changing your visceral response to things, you have to go into the emotional world. And it's just neurology. Like it's just very basic. It's just like the engineering types, it's in your front or on their frontal lobe. And like I said before, we all make emotional decisions and justify them with logic, and occasionally get people who are too engineering, too left brain to understand that. But most people can understand that you need the right brain to enjoy life. Like you need emotions, you need community, you need connection. Unless you have Asperger's or some other type of neurologic uniqueness, it's probably, that's not going to be you. Like 99% of us need connection. We need to feel good. We want to feel good. We want to feel loved. And honestly, I think the people who are engineers are a little bit in their own relational trauma, mini trauma response, because they've like been so trained for whatever reason to disconnect from their felt emotional state. Or we've learned as men to like, hey, emotions are bad. Like you should be macho man.
Right.
What you probably see it in football and wrestling a decent bit. What do you see of that in wrestling and football? Is that still around?
It's hard to say. Like other teams, and I just jumped back into it this year as a coach. But when I was playing, absolutely, I would. And I came from like a small town where it's like football was everything, wrestling was everything. I wrestled in the state finals with a torn meniscus, taped from my hip all the way down to my ankle. I played with a concussion, played with an ankle injury. So I would definitely say the culture around that it's definitely pushed through, macho tough for sure. I mean, just those experiences in itself sum it up for me. Now, what I'm noticing nowadays, it's changing a little bit. Like things like when they brought the concussion movie out, and that really slowed people down to even want people to play football. But I think with like modalities like this, like I saw Saquon Barkley, like he's using a lot of stuff like this. And I think Tom Brady started to make it a little more popular too. I think his guy doesn't talk about everything he's doing, but if you listen to it in the documentary, he's like, I infuse a little bit of Chinese medicine into what I'm doing. So like, I feel like he does this stuff, but is not talking about it. And I did hear someone else on a podcast say Tom Brady does like vision train. He was doing vision training, and they talk about like, if you look, you can go look this up. His helmet is more open. It's like up and out. And I think it's because his visual field was so good and he wanted to see the entire field when he was playing. So I think people they're getting there. And I think like you always say, logic is fast, science is slow. But with a lot of these things, and you can speak on this, I mean, I think you could probably quote a bunch of stuff. I know like if we talk about emotions, meditation, mind, if you just look up Joe Dispenza, he's going to have tons of science to pull on you. So,
even
with
Huberman, Dr. Huberman's a good resource too.
Yeah. I think that statement is definitely true for a lot of things, but I think nowadays we're getting to the point where science, I wouldn't say it's caught up, but it's able to justify a lot of these things. So even if you are in that left brain engineer mind, I think, like I heard you on a podcast, I always get the wording wrong. It's like psychoneuroimmunology, like that. If you look up that term, that will justify a lot of these things, how the mind influences the body.
Yep. It's like everyone kind of knows like, oh, when I'm stressed and then I get sick, or right after a big exam, I'm more likely to get sick. That's your psychoneuroimmune system connecting to each other. People sort of know when they're run down, their immune system's down, they have the flu, they have an infection, that they're probably more irritable. Their mood's not going to be the same. It's like everyone kind of knows their mood and their immune system are tied in. They know how much their mood impacts their sports performance or their job performance or just like their sleep and things like that. So I think everyone kind of intuitively knows. We just, some people like to fixate on other things.
Yeah. And this will be a good segue, and tying these things, because what I've seen is, like in the exercise world, especially, is people will neglect a lot of these things and they lead to issues long term. So for example, if you're doing an exercise program and it's so broad in the sense of how people are training other people, but if they do that exercise program long enough, what I notice is I would say most of my clients are open to everything I'm doing, or about 60 to 80%. Those people can rock it with me long term and they're okay. Maybe little things pop up here and there, but we nip them in the bud. But I've had some people, and this is where I want you to talk about everything that you would incorporate with exercise. If you were a trainer, with your background, but if you were a trainer, I think this would be a good question for you, is that I've had maybe the 10, maybe like 3 or 4 people who didn't do the extra stuff. They didn't do the quote unquote holistic alternative things. Those are the most injury prone, and my exercise selection with them over time got smaller and smaller. It's like, hey, I can't squat. Hey, I can't do RDLs. I can't do deadlift. I can't jump, like I can't do anything athletic. Can you kind of like tie into those things? And, one, you can just kind of talk about your 2 cents on exercise. And I know you're a big advocate for it, but then incorporating these things into it.
Incorporating which things, like different exercises?
I would say a lot
holistic
of you talked about it. Yeah. Like, the NET stuff. I know the NET stuff would be hard to do in a gym. I've tried to lifeline people in the gym and I got them balling in the middle of the gym, or, different emotional techniques. But I've had some people just do simple breathing drills, and that's been very helpful in of itself.
For sure. I think incorporating the structural, chemical, emotional, the thought, trauma, toxin, the whole triad of health into working out is just going to dramatically increase your results. Because, like, why do the muscles work? The muscles work because the nerves are telling them to fire. And what tells the nerves to fire from the spinal cord? It's your brain. And like, how does your brain work? Well, it makes mostly off of like brainwave states, eye movements, and your felt emotional sense. So I think when you work on breath work, when you work on eye drills, when you work on emotional clearing and balancing the nervous system, the muscles are just going to work better. And when you have issues with the brain and the nervous system, then you're going to get muscles that are dysfunctional. And that's when people can't squat. That's when people can't jump. That's when people can't, move their arms or their shoulders in certain directions. So everything is so intricately connected. I think when you can just access a little bit more of the nervous system, maybe access a little bit more of their protein intake and their overall diet and nutritional stuff and their vitamin intake, and get them their muscles more biochemical energy, that also helps a lot with, it's like when, if I were to come in and been on like a 72-hour fast and 2 hours of sleep over 3 days, like I'm not going to be able to lift nearly as much as if I had slept 10 hours and eaten 50 grams of protein for breakfast. So it's like, we know this, we just don't always connect the dots. So I think that's the main thing with like podcasting. I think it's kind of like you're just reconnecting dots for people to reaffirm, like, oh yeah, that is important. Maybe I should look for that. Maybe I'll start doing that instead of like stretching, or when I do my pre-workout or post-workout ritual, maybe I'll start doing some of these nervous system things that you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. I would say, with what I always tell clients, and I actually would really love it if you talked about like the 5 elements, and we can kind of tie this into exercise and things like that. And because I think the key for people is they want to come in and they want to train like balls to the wall and let's get jacked, let's get swole. And I think you can probably tie this into 5 elements, is there's a balance to it. But when people come in, and there's some people where I have to explain it enough, and once they understand, like, hey, we're going to train hard, don't worry about that, but let's do these couple things first so we can maintain and sustain it, right? I always say there's like a hierarchy to your brain and your body, and you know, your brain does not care about your bicep or, you know, all these things. It's going to prioritize, like you talked about it a little bit, like lungs over shoulders, right? Hands over heart, right? Like or heart over hands. It's going to prioritize the survival systems, right? Because I can't live
Yeah.
without my heart. I can't live without the liver. I can't live without these higher order systems. So can you kind of like talk about, like, you know, the prioritization, and maybe you can tie it into, I think 5 elements is probably a good way to tie it into all that.
Yeah. I think the brain's number one goal is to not die. It's basically a fear program to keep you alive. So if you don't feel safe in life, if you don't feel secure about who you are yourself, which is actually a lot of people when they start working out, they don't have good self-esteem, or that's part of why they're looking to work out, is because it builds your self-esteem. That's your brain's first purpose, is to feel safe, feel secure. And then your brain's second purpose is to reproduce, which is the other reason why a lot of people work out, is like they want to look good. They want to get their summer bod in. So I think your juicy booty, you got to do the first before you do the second. And your brain also is going to prioritize staying alive, which means your lung function's got to be pretty decent. Your heart's got to be good. So maybe doing breathing exercises so people can hold their breath for long enough time where their, you know, lungs are working just not even optimally, but just working decently, is going to help them with lifting, doing more shoulder and bicep curls, and like stabilizing their shoulders so they can get really big biceps. If you have someone who's under 30, it's going to be a lot easier because a lot of those vital organ functions are going to be solid enough where then they can train harder. But when you get someone over 40, 45, 50, some of their vital organ function is going to decrease no matter what. So you have to do a little bit more to get swole. It's not as easy for someone 70 to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger as a 19-year-old who starts training and puts on muscle no problem. Part of that's hormonal, part of that's visceral organ function, part of that's their nervous system strength. There's a lot of factors. As you're older, you get a little more dehydrated in your tissues. So it takes a little more the older you are, but you can't kill a moving target. Like, it's really hard to kill a moving target. So the number one way to not die is, I think, loving life. And the number two way to not die is to stay a moving target, to keep moving. Like I've seen people, if you hate your life and you hate the world, like the world's going to hate you back. Like if you hate nature, if you hate God, if you don't believe in God, you don't believe in nature, you're just like, the world sucks. This is terrible. Like your spirit's going to leave pretty quickly. Or like subconsciously, you're going to self-sabotage yourself, or not take your meds, or not get the surgeries you need, not get the preventive screenings you need. And like things aren't going to go well. So you've got to fix your attitude first. Second thing is you got to move your body. It's like, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's Wolf's law. Same thing. Like if you use the bone, you will grow bone tissue. If you use the muscle, you'll grow more muscle tissue. You got to use it or you're going to lose it. And the number one way to age well is to pretend like you're not aging. Like stay young, do young movements, and basically reverse age your movements. So you can move like a baby, rock, roll, and crawl. You can do the sports you did when you were younger, but you have to kind of like slowly reverse age yourself, and not act like an old crippled person with no mobility and not a lot of flexibility. But movement is for sure underrated in the natural health world. If people moved better, they would not need nearly as many supplements as they're currently taking.
I like that. Yep.
Same thing. If you knew how to balance your nervous system, you wouldn't have to take adaptogens or B vitamins forever. If you weren't toxic, you wouldn't have to detox every spring if your lifestyle wasn't toxic. If you moved better, you wouldn't have to take stuff for energy or for nervous system balance. Like there's a lot of people, usually they're wood element dominant, but there's a lot of people who say, I kind of need to work out for my mental health. To me, that's a little bit of a red flag, but it's sort of true, because working out for everybody tends to help their mental health. And even if you have, like, I remember when I started working out, you were always like, the first year or two, you're like, you feel any different? And I was like, not really. Like, I felt pretty good before this.
Right. Even though you were looking different and everything was different. Yeah.
Right. Like everything was different. I was looking a little better. I was gained like 20 pounds of muscle in like 6 months or something from working out like once a week. So like I was looking better. I'm sure I probably had a little more energy, but like I think my mental state was so good because I'd done so much NET that I was like, I don't need the workout for mental health, but it was definitely helping physical health. It was definitely helping biochemical health. Your muscles secrete their own set of hormones to impact your mood, to impact so many different things for your brain. They're called myokines, I believe. They basically have their own neurotransmitter system. So I think movement is probably the most underestimated and like underutilized in all of holistic medicine. People are starting to get the trauma aspect, like in influencer world, vitamins and supplements is still very popular because it's a quick fix. People are starting to understand like how much their stress and trauma and mental health impacts them, but they really don't fully grasp how disconnected they are from their bodies. What's an easy test you would say, James, for people can kind of get an idea of if their nervous system is good? I know like once you said like if you close your eyes and march in place or balance, like march in place for 60 seconds.
Is a good tell because it's a good tell between brain and body, right? Because when you balance, you're testing like proprioception. Can I sustain my body in space? Eyes are closed, so now I can see vestibular and balance functions. There are other ones too. I think a good one, I would tell people if you do it, tread carefully, is rolling. If you can just get on your back and roll a couple ways. I found the people who are really healthy they can rock about 5+ in a row, no problem.
So basically you get on your back, you roll as if you're like rolling down a hill, roll to the left on your stomach, roll from your back to your stomach to your back. That's one roll, and do it 5 times to the left, 5 times to the right.
5 in a row, you're rocking. Yeah.
And rocking. No, you're rolling.
A lot. Yeah, you're rolling. Yep. A lot of people will get dizzy at 3.
Got it.
And I never push it past the 3 usually with people unless they're healthy. If people get to that 4th one, I really got a feeling they're going to be sick the rest of the day. So I think those are 2 good little tests.
So like the balance one is like,
I would say just go careful though with the rolling because it will ruin your day if you go too fast, too many.
Yeah. And the balance one, you could stand with your heels and toes together, like feet pointing parallel
one
straight.
Foot in front of the other.
Oh, that one's even harder.
I like the Rombergs over the Fukuda because Fukuda testing on its own, you might run into something. If you're doing it at home, you got the couch in the way, you got the desk. So Rombergs, you just hold and balance in place. Fukuda's a really good one, but as you're spinning in the circle, somebody might hit something. Or
I was going to say if they can stand on one leg with eyes closed, that's probably a good sign. If they can balance on one leg with eyes closed.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
But if you can, so you're saying like 1 foot in front of the other, almost like a drunk driving test.
Yeah, because then you can see if both sides are balanced too.
And then close your eyes.
Yep, both arms out in front. Yep, feet are like this, both arms out in front, eyes closed, and be able to hold 30 seconds with not a lot of movement is a really good sign.
Got it.
I like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, people can't stay up or they fall over to catch themselves. Weak. No. It's like, weak. You need work. You need to see James.
I think this would be really helpful for people is you name these things of probably why people aren't seeing good exercise results. And this could tie into so many other things. If you could just maybe give like a couple good tips for these. I mean, the nervous system one's going to be redundant for us at this point. We've given so many of them. You said the visceral system, the hormonal system, and as you're getting older, your tissues are starting to dehydrate. So what have you found that for those 3, what are some of the best tools, tips, or techniques you have for those 3?
Shoot, I just zoned out for a second. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, of course. I know. Big question. I'm throwing a lot of big questions at you.
Go for it.
So you said there were 4 systems that were really getting in the way, and this was exercise related, but I'm sure this would be a lot of things. You were saying dehydration of the tissues. They were hormonally weak. The visceral system was weak. And I said, just leave the nervous system out because we've already covered that tenfold at this point. I would say just cover those first 3.
Hormones, viscera,
and dehydration. You said the tissues are dehydrated, which I really like the tissue, not hydration as an abstract concept.
Yeah, a lot of people think hydration is just getting enough water in a day, but it's really like, is your body absorbing it? And using it well. But how does that relate? You know, men know about low testosterone, but women also need testosterone for libido and muscle strength. They don't need as much as men do. But when you have low testosterone, why does that happen? It's usually because of not enough sleep, too much stress, too much alcohol, or adrenal weakness, because your adrenals make DHEA that converts into testosterone. Mm-hmm. But if you have low testosterone, you're not going to get as much muscle strength, or you're not going to be able to build muscle as well. You're not going to be as strong. You're not going to be as motivated. You're not going to have as much drive, mojo, or like oomph to create the life you want. So I think the hormonal side is easily explained with the testosterone. But hormonally, there's a tie-in with hydration too, because if you don't have enough estrogen as a man or a woman, your tissues dehydrate as well. So in menopause, women's estrogen drops and their skin dries out. They get some vaginal atrophy or dryness. Their brain dries out and they get insomnia. So that's often from low progesterone too. But the lack of estrogen and an estrogen-progesterone imbalance can also create dryness of the tissues. So you get the hormonal side. The second one was the visceral side. Yeah, the dryness side makes sense. The way you get your body to actually be hydrated, if we're going to visceral, the way you get your body to be hydrated is checking your hormones, drinking clean water, and grounding and being in sunlight. Because there's a fancy thing in water physics called structured water, or structuring the water. But the way you structure your internal water to hydrate your tissues more is, well, you do have to sometimes balance the nervous system, but it's oftentimes about grounding, like energetically connecting yourself and ionizing to the earth, and getting sunlight on your skin. Movement.
Do you like skin contact on the earth, or
I like skin contact, but there are different. Yeah, I like skin contact for sure, but there are definitely, when it's too cold out, there's different conductive materials or grounding pads or shoes that are grounding, where you can get something ERTHE, earthy, makes a grounding strap for your shoe. You can like wrap under your heel and wrap around to the base of your shoe. So any shoe can become a grounding shoe for about $20 with the earthy strap. So there's grounding shoe straps, but grounding helps structure water in your body so it gets used better. Sunlight helps structure water, and movement. So again, going for a walk outside, especially if you're wearing grounding shoes, or you put grounding straps on your shoes, or you go barefoot or in socks or conductive material, you're going to get all three of those all at once, which is going to help hydrate your tissues more. And for women, they want to hydrate their tissues because their face then doesn't wrinkle as much. So if you're too inflamed, too much chronic inflammation, your face is going to wrinkle more. So a lot of smokers, their face and around their mouth gets super wrinkled. So chronic inflammation or chronic frowning, not being super happy, will also wrinkle you. So being mentally well, being less chronically inflamed, moving your body, grounding, sunlight, all the basics helps structurally with physical exercise as well. And then your viscera is the last part of those three things to also help strengthen your body from a structural standpoint. When your reproductive organs are really good, you don't have a lot of fat around the pelvis. So you have a juicy booty. You basically get good muscle function. You get a juicy booty, and you don't get a overly fat booty or flabby booty, because you have good like pelvic organ function. You could also think about it like if your liver is swollen, if you have a fatty liver, which a lot of people go undiagnosed, where they have high triglycerides, high cholesterol, a little bit of insulin resistance, or high blood sugar. Their hemoglobin C is maybe like a 5.4 or higher. And they might have weight gain around their midsection, like a little bit of a beer belly or a cortisol stomach. You look up like high cortisol belly, Google high cortisol belly, or Google beer belly, if you don't know what that is. But they often have a fatty liver. So you can put weight gain around where the liver is, but that can decrease your core strength as well. So different organs can cause different weight distribution issues. Low testosterone will typically cause the flabby chicken arms that everyone gets in behind their triceps, where they get that like thing.
You remember, did you ever hear Charles Poliquin say it has to be just as tight as the penis skin? Have you ever heard that?
No.
The tricep.
The tricep used to be as
Yeah,
tight as that.
yeah. Or you said
Flexed.
you have testosterone issues.
Jeez.
Yikes. Sidebar. Yikes.
Yeah. But like you kind of know, like, okay, if you have too much estrogen as a man, you might get man boobs because estrogen helps grow breast tissue. So like hormones relate to the things, but the visceral organs also create hormonal imbalances and then create structural problems. If you have irritated liver gallbladder, you can get right shoulder problems. If you have a heart issue, you can get left shoulder problems. If the diaphragm's bothered under either rib cage, then either shoulder could become problematic or your mid neck. If you have neck issues, that's often a thyroid or parathyroid problem. If you have low back issues, that's often your gut or kidney, adrenals, or bladder that's weak or something's off. So it's a reflex for the engineers out there called a viscerosomatic reflex or a somatovisceral reflex. So that's when you get a heart issue and you get the left arm numbness tingling, or your left shoulder pain, or left neck and jaw pain. That's the viscera, the organs impacting the soma, the physical body, but also works in the opposite direction as well. So the physical body can start to impact the organ. So if you don't have really good left hand grip strength or arm strength, that can also weaken the heart over time.
So you're telling me it's all connected?
It's all connected. We hit on this right before we started, but that's why I say I practice more holistic medicine, where you look at the beautiful interconnectedness of the body and the structural, chemical, emotional, rather than functional medicine, which kind of pretends to do that, but oftentimes just ends up with really expensive lab testing and then supplements and prescription meds, and doesn't really look at the emotional health or treat the emotional health, doesn't really look at or palpate or feel or treat the structural body. So they're missing the majority of what's causing most problems these days, because most people are actually overfed and over nutrient dense, and they're actually under moving and they're under feeling. So most people, 90% of the reason why they see doctor is due to stress. But if you actually work out more and you move more, you can tolerate more stress. So that would help a lot too.
Yeah. That's why I keep saying that it's unfortunate, because when you hear holistic, I think people get they get a picture in their mind. But I think when you start and this is why I wanted to do a podcast, is because then you can get kind of in the weeds of things. Because when you start hearing things like, all right, like you said, the viscerosomatic reflex and all these different things, like there's justification, like we talked about. There's so many, if you have that, even if you have that engineer mind, there's so many reasons and so many like things backing this up to think this way. Like you said, and I always tell people is, even if you aren't going to do the research and you're not going to look these things up that I'm saying to you, just there's so many anecdotes, like you just said, that left grip for the heart. It makes sense, because when you're having a heart attack, where you feel it on that left arm, right? Like a lot of things add up, right? And there's these so many real life world examples of backing up the things that you say, that I say to people. Probably
you can look those things up too, and there's, like you just said, there is science to back a lot of stuff up. You just Google grip strength heart health, the first thing is Harvard Health from 2015 talking about studies saying hey, this is a real phenomenon, pay attention.
And there's so many, just grip strength in general, how much that's tied to mortality rates.
It's huge.
I think we'd definitely be remiss if we did not talk about doing your drugs with a purpose and caffeine. I know, let's open that can of worms.
Oh, caffeine. I have a love-hate relationship with caffeine. I used to be a barista at Caribou Coffee in high school, and I was doing 10 to 15 shots of espresso a day, and I loved it.
That's paying power right there.
Yeah, probably why I got adrenal fatigue. The most I ever did was, I think, 22 shots in one day, because we had a challenge where we we worked right next to a Qdoba, which is kind of like a Chipotle. Right. And the Qdoba workers and us had a competition to see who could drink the most caffeine in a day. And I won, but it was the best day of my life. And the day after was the worst day of my life. It's one of those things where I say do your drugs with a purpose, not every day. because you don't want to become dependent on caffeine or any substance in order to be a great human. Like, you are a delicate houseplant with complicated emotions, so you probably need some sunlight. You probably need to move your body, get some water, get some food most days, and deal with your emotions most days. But aside from basic like air and oxygen and watering and feeding yourself, you shouldn't have to depend on a drug or a substance in order to feel normal or feel healthy. And Chinese medicine says caffeine is stealing energy from tomorrow for today. And that's a great way to view it. It's an extra energy boost in a time of need. It can save your life, because driving tired is worse than driving drunk. So if you're driving late at night on the road, definitely get some matcha or green tea or some dark chocolate, or have a coffee, whatever you can get your hands on, because you don't want to die. Driving is the most dangerous thing people do, besides what they eat and drink and probably lack of moving. So I think caffeine has a purpose, and its original purpose was to hallucinate and trip balls. That was what coffee was originally meant to do. You were meant to drink a bunch of coffee, trip balls, talk to God, and then you'd get revelations and you'd bring it back to your tribe. So like, they used to basically do ceremonies where they would spiritually connect to source because of the caffeine. It's meant to like disconnect you from your body, put you into your brain instead of your like lower body that's grounded. You get more like heady and headspacey. And we've lost track of that, because what it does is make you more heady. It increases your like brain energy and ATP. But the problem is then you pay for it later with a crash or adrenal fatigue, or it lowers your thyroid function, or it makes you chronically sick. And they only were originally doing it like once a month or less. It wasn't meant to be a daily need. And then once the Industrial Revolution got a hold of it and said, oh my God, we can just keep giving people stimulants like caffeine and they'll work 12-hour days or 16-hour days, and we can make more money, we can make more profit, because it was all about capitalism and, you know, how much can we produce and how much can we do. That's when we started to get into more trouble with caffeine.
Is that like something similar to like the cacao ceremony you're saying? Like, that was like the original intent? Is that what I've never done one, I've only heard of them, but is that like that idea of?
That was the original intent. Yeah. So maybe that'll be my next retreat. We'll do a caffeine ceremony every day. We'll just like have a bunch of coffee, get trippy, do some like Joe Dispenza meditations, and just see what happens.
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird.
Did you
do the drugs with a purpose?
And that makes sense so much, because I remember seeing there's a study out there where they took they would give drugs to spiders and see how they spin their webs. And if you look up the caffeine one, it is all over the place. It's
super erratic.
Yeah. So that would be a good post for you to show people that, like, how the web, because it's all over. It's even worse than like methamphetamines and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's bad. I think people don't realize how scattered and chaotic. Some people know if I have too much caffeine, they get anxiety, their heart races. But it's pretty wild what that will do to spider webs.
So what would be like, if people are looking to wean off, because I know the withdrawals are tough and the addiction with it is very strong. You know, I've experienced this myself. I've got the nickname Mocha Man before, you know. It's definitely something I've struggled with myself, and pre-workout in college, and, you know, able to wean myself off that. But what would be some tips or tools to start to wean themselves off?
Either switch from coffee, which is the most stimulating, to black or green tea, and then go down to dark chocolate, or go to half calf. So I sell some decaf beans on our website, drbradleycampbell.com. At least for now, we're doing it this year. We might keep doing it or not, depending on how well it does. But so far, it's been doing really well. And it's organic, it's Swiss water processed, there's no chemicals, and you can basically titrate your dose down over a period of 2 to 4 weeks, so that and I've sneakily had a lot of wives do this to their husbands, and the husbands don't even notice. That's how disconnected they are from their body or their energy state.
That's funny.
Yeah. So they'll be like, oh yeah, I gave him half calf today. He had no clue. Like, I made our coffee, the pot coffee for the house. They had no clue. And then they go to like a quarter, no clue. They go to like 10, 20%, no clue. They put like a few beans of caffeine, no clue. And then they go to decaf, and then they're like, did you know you've been having decaf the last 3 months? And they're like, nope, no idea. So I think we get in our heads about it. But when you go to half calf, there's something where you crave it less. So even if you have 1 cup of caffeine a day, I tell people start with 2 cups a day of half caffeine because it's less addictive. So you'll go to 2 and then you'll be like, actually, I kind of need like 1.5 or 1. Like you don't crave it as much when it's even diluted 50%.
Yeah. And then is there, like you've given me advice on this with, supplementing with other things. Are there other things that can kind of help the process to make it a little bit easier with the withdrawals? And also because part of it is I think people get off is like 2 to 3 days in, they're absolutely miserable and the energy is horrible. And it's like, you still have to continue daily life,
Yeah. A lot of times they'll have people get from pure encapsulations or has them ask their doctors about getting vitamin D3 with K2, some magnesium glycinate, or if they have constipation, magnesium citrate. I'll have them ask particularly about B complex plus by pure encapsulations. B complex is very helpful for energy when you're weaning off of caffeine. And then usually some sort of adrenal or adaptogen blend. So we really, I don't know if you can, I don't think you can get it online anymore. There's a blend we carry at our office, but for people who,
you get one from you, right? You got the full
script. Yeah, on our website, drbradleycampbell.com, there's a full script supplement store link. You can get those things. You can also get Drenamin, Drenamin by standard process, and ask your doctor about that if you're not allergic to those things. Or another really good one is there's Orthomolecular makes an Adrenal, ADREN-ALL, which is good. We'll use that from time to time. Actually, scratch the Adrenal. The one I like better is usually HPA Adapt for adaptogens by Integrative Therapeutics.
Do you need a doctor for that one, or you just need the doctor for the standard I know you need the doctor one for standard process, right?
You don't anymore. No, you don't actually need that. Cool. But that's a good adaptogen blend that you can ask your doctor about. But it's got rhodiola, ashwagandha, eleuthero, holy basil, and maca. So it does increase testosterone for guys, does help muscle strength and endurance, and usually it helps people with energy balancing. If you tend to be more of the stressed out, wired, anxious, then we'll go to the cortisol manager by Integrative Therapeutics. But if you're more of the rundown, tired, low adrenal state, then we go to the HPA Adapt and the B complex to help people.
And do you find people they're one or the other? They're like more depressed down when they're getting off?
Usually,
yeah.
Usually they're more like
wired.
Usually they're higher or lower. Yeah, sometimes you get both, the wired and tired. In which case we might do the energizing one in the morning and the calming one in the evening or when they're feeling more wired.
And the cortisol manager would be for if you're more wired, and then the HPAs or the other way around.
Correct. Yep. HPAs if you're tired, and the cortisol manager if you're more anxious or wired.
Okay. Cool. All right, man. Let's have you just like plug your socials, your membership, and are you doing another retreat soon too? Because I think you have to be a member for
that. We prioritize members who get access, but everything is on drbradleycampbell.com. So Dr. Bradley Campbell, CAMPBELL.com. My Instagram is also Dr. Bradley Campbell, but I got Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter links all up there. I mostly use Instagram for social media. We get like funny Sunday memes up every day. Got to go do that after this. And there's some coffee. There's a libido erectile dysfunction supplement on there. There's the Level Up Health membership, which is cheaper than a supplement. And you can learn hours of different stuff and take a root cause test to get yourself healthier. But I tell people, like, if you have less than $100 to spend on your health, I would consider joining my membership for a month and ask questions and learn, because you can ask me questions on there. If you have more than $100, then see James or get a gym membership, or like get a really good trainer, because that's what most people are missing. And then if you have more than $200-300 monthly, then maybe same thing, see James or get an NET practitioner, or find someone who does really good hands-on healing work.
All right, man. This was a pleasure. Enjoyed it. Do you have anything else? You want to leave people with anything?
No, I would just Keep going, James. Just keep
going.
going. Keep sharing. Keep
Fun.
document. Don't create. Keep documenting some of the
Yeah, I
workouts and sharing them because people need to see it, see what you're doing. Don't hide it.
I know you've been on me for years about it, so finally listening at this point.
Woohoo!
All right.
Stop hiding the greatness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right.